Hi, y'all, and welcome to tonight's live stream. We are covering the case of Donna Adelson, the matriarch accused in the murder of Dan Markel. Now, tonight you are going to hear her in a very unguarded moment, a conversation with her son, who has just been convicted at the moment they were talking of murder in the case, and who is now going to be spending the rest of his life in prison. So you're hearing her at this very moment, and she probably at that time never thought she would be arrested, although she did think it was likely enough that she headed for the airport and specifically was going to a non-extradition country. So she thought it was at least possible. But you are going to hear Donna, her husband Harvey, and Charlie on the phone as they talk, just unguarded, the day that Charlie was convicted. And it's the start of a blame game. Donna is definitely ready to assign some blame for what's just happened, her son being convicted. And it's not blame that goes on Charlie. It is not blame that has anything to do with her. It is quite a surprise, really. She blames an entire city, the city of Tallahassee, where the case is being tried. Like all of them, the whole city, the community where the jury is pulled from. And Charlie and Donna decide in this conversation that the city of Tallahassee is to blame. So there are a number of phone calls, but I think this is one of the most critical ones for understanding how Donna has approached her own trial. She was arrested 2 weeks after Charlie was, while she was about to board an aircraft to Vietnam. And so I think this really is a window into what Donna will be doing for the whole trial. And I think it also explains a lot of some of the motions that she did in advance, because over and over, she asked the judge in her case to get her out of Tallahassee. And over, the judges said, no, you'll be tried here. So Donna will be in the thick of it in her case, which starts just a little over 2 weeks from now. So I want to say a special shout out to the first 5 in tonight's chat. And I have to, okay. Mildred, Michael Lalonde, Maria Z, DR James, and Villanelle's Boots. Special welcome to all of you. And if you would you please hit the like button? I would, that'll really help YouTube kind of notice that we're here. I would appreciate it. And if you aren't subscribed, we would absolutely love to have you subscribe to the channel. So please do. So, all right, let's get started on what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to add to the stage this that I tried to do earlier. Oh, look, somehow I'm showing comments on stage. Okay, that I think will be confusing to everybody. Okay, so this is a graphic I did of the characters in the case. Characters, I just mean the people involved. Dan Markel was a law professor at FSU in Tallahassee, and you can see him to the left here. The two people either have been charged or, in Charlie's case, convicted. I've circled them in red. Donna Adelson is the matriarch. She is about to go on trial. She's the one who in 2 weeks' time will be facing that Tallahassee jury she didn't want to face. Now, according to the prosecution and the jury in Charlie's trial, Charlie was basically roped in by Donna to help out Wendi. They both wanted to get rid of Dan Markel, who had been married to Wendi. You can see Wendi up there right beside Donna. So Wendi and Dan had gotten divorced, but they had not figured out the custody issues yet, and they really disagreed. Donna and Wendi wanted to bring Wendi's kids down to Miami, where they'd be close to Wendi's family. But Dan said, no, I work in Tallahassee. I want them to stay here. So at this point, they hadn't reached a decision about that yet. The prosecution says that Donna talked it up with Charlie, and they decided, and they believe Wendi was involved too, they decided to go find hitmen. And the route they took was Charlie hired Katie Medbanowa, who was his girlfriend, who hired her ex-boyfriend / father of her children, Sigfredo Garcia, who roped in a friend of his, Luis Rivera. Now, you see, Charlie has been convicted. So have Katie Medbanawa, Sigfredo Garcia, and Luis Rivera, all convicted of this same murder. Now the prosecution has moved to the upper line you see there, starting with Donna. They have specifically said that they believe Wendi was a conspirator, and also they've talked about Harvey, who is Donna's husband, Wendi's father, as a potential co-conspirator. As of this point, Wendi and Harvey have not been charged with anything. So they are not presently facing any jury. They aren't facing any charges. Whether they ever will is anybody's guess. But for now, we are on Donna's trial. So that's the quick recap if you want to remember exactly who's who. Let me pull that out, and let's talk a little bit about what you're about to see. Now, these were jail phone calls, which are not private, but does seem to be difficult for people to remember that. We're going to go ahead and play. I've cut it substantially. They talked for a long time. You're going to hear about 15 minutes worth of clips from it, and then we'll kind of talk about it as we go through. As we get into it, let me go ahead and put that on the stage.
Hello, this is a prepaid collect call from Charlie.
And I'm always interrupting these as we're going. So I'm going to interrupt here. So this is audio only. There's no video. I've made that little graphic just to kind of show where we are. But so there's not a video of it, but you'll be able to hear it. And also, I wanted you to know the way I've done the words is really hard to hear. I ran it through 3 different AI programs, and I just did not think it was good enough. So what you've got is my best interpretation of what they've said. It's got the AI initial thing, and then I went in and tried to fix things. There are some places where I don't know. You got me. Feel free to throw that in. Feel free to go ahead and tell me what you think they say, because it's really hard. I consider this a collaborative effort. So let me know if you are able to tell some words and you can see that I either put a question mark or don't have anything. All right.
An incarcerated individual at the Leon County Jail. This call is not private. It will be recorded and may be monitored. If you believe this should be a private call, please hang up and follow facility instructions to register this number as a private number.
And I just wanted to go ahead and throw that in because I want to remind everybody that Donna and Charlie are having this unguarded moment, but they know they're being recorded. That's going to really harm Donna. Not just here, there's another phone call that's even more significant for her case when she talks about her plans to go to Vietnam. But for this one, in this, we're going to really see what her initial impressions are and who she blames for everything. So I wanted you to know and remember, yeah, she's told up front that this is going to be recorded. And this is the day that Charlie was convicted. And it's quite apparent from the conversation that no one in the family was expecting that they were all very surprised that he was convicted. And so that's why I think it's so unguarded. He's
on a quarter pot underneath all the cells up on top. So it's like set up just like a pod is, but it's got a whole wall that's divided. They don't cut the lights on. They got the cameras on it. Well, they have a guard sitting watching the cameras.
So what he's done is describe the temporary place to his mother where he's being put right after the conviction, because one of the concerns that the jail has is, what if he becomes very depressed as a result of this? What if he's in danger to him? What if he is a danger to himself? And so they put him in a separate room, and he's sort of describing it about how he's being watched. Ironically, Donna Adelson, just 2.5, 3 weeks from now, is going to be in the same position. And we are going to see her come into court, not tonight, but it was something that happened. She came into court and complained about the way she was being treated and the poor treatment she was receiving in this private isolation unit that was designed to keep her from any kind of self-harm. So their topic is going to be obviously very somber. This is a serious day for them, but it's all about how unfair Charlie's trial was. And they believe there's a reason for that. And it's not Charlie, and it's not even the judge. They don't even mention the judge. It's not the prosecutor. They have an idea, though, exactly who it is.
I was going to get, honestly, I thought I was going to get a fair shake, and I never, put it this way, I never thought I was going to get a fair shake. I got led to believe that I was going to get a fair shake, and I started to believe it myself. You know, I just, okay.
No. Dan is writing to me what we're talking, Charlie.
Dan, by the way, is Charlie's lawyer, Daniel Rashbaum. At least I assume that's who they're talking about. And so Daniel Rashbaum, who has been the attorney and has now lost the case with Charlie, is writing to Donna Adelson, the mother. He is also going to be called upon to be Donna's lawyer within just a matter of months. She initially has a different lawyer, but Daniel Rashbaum is hired to be her attorney. That is going to blow up explosively in September when it turns out Charlie is brought in, and I don't know if he learns, I don't know what the plan was, but apparently Charlie had never signed anything saying it was okay with him for Daniel Rashbaum to represent his mother, even though Daniel Rashbaum had already represented Charlie. And so that ended up blowing up spectacularly. The entire trial had to be postponed. Then 2 more lawyers who had worked with Daniel Rashbaum were excluded. And now we have a whole new set before we start this trial, which is finally about to begin. She was arrested in 2024, I guess, like January, or maybe even 2023. So it's been a substantial amount of time that she's been in jail and not yet been tried while she's been waiting for that. So that's who she's talking about when she's talking to Charlie.
Yeah, man.
We're going to continue to fight. Not giving up on you, just wait.
I know. It's just a big case for Tallahassee. It's not your normal case comes back on appeals and they let a guy go. Like that.
Yeah. Was he flying back to Miami?
He drove.
Oh, he drove.
I mean, I stayed around because I thought I'd get a fair shake, but that's not what happened.
I know.
It's like I should have stayed around for this.
Okay, I find that really interesting. The way I heard that was, he said, it's like I shouldn't have stayed around for it. What does that mean? Does that mean Charlie's saying I should have fled the country? It's not his first time suggesting that. On Friday, we had another clip where he had suggested, according to somebody else, in fact, it was Katie Medbanowa in the bump, and he told her, if we thought there was a chance, we'd have headed to the airport. So this is the second time. Again, that's an issue because surrounding the issue of whether or not Donna Adelson was attempting to flee to a non-extradition country, is that evidence for Donna that Donna has some kind of guilt or culpability here? Is that why she was fleeing? That's what the prosecution is going to argue. So here you've got Charlie making a statement that I at least heard as being kind of similar. Let's keep going.
This is not like a call. I don't know how. I just don't know how Dan was so optimistic. He was very optimistic, which I appreciate. But
because the case was good, and he was good, and you were good. It was the jury, honey. It was just what you said.
There was no jury in Tallahassee that would have let me go. That was never going to happen.
Okay. Hopefully you're able to see this by seeing the words on the screen. But for those of you who are not able to see the screen right now, what I heard him just say anyway was, first, Donna said, It was the jury, honey. She says, the case was good and he was good, Daniel Rashbaum, and you were good. It was the jury, honey. So her view is it's the jury. And Charlie comes back to where the jury was pulled from. And he says there was no jury in Tallahassee that was ever going to let me go. That was never going to happen. And they're going to talk more about Tallahassee.
She, we were like outsiders up here. We'll put it that way. We were definitely outsiders and looked at as like people from another planet that from Tallahassee.
He's talking about they were outsiders. And unlike the Adelsons, the prosecutor was very much an insider. And they feel like she appealed to the Tallahassee bias against the Adelsons. That's where their direction is. They believe the blame for the result is on the jury, on the Tallahassee jury pool, and the way the prosecutor manipulated them to make them believe the Adelsons were guilty. That's why you see Donna Adelson moving repeatedly to get out of Tallahassee. She's been very clear. She wants out. She wants to have her trial somewhere else. And the judge has been adamant, not going to let it happen. Now, Charlie is pointing out, you're about to hear Charlie point out something that is real. It's not imaginary. He's going to say that it's hard for a defendant to win a murder trial. And it is. It rarely happens. But nonetheless, Donna and Charlie both appear to be surprised that he didn't win. They feel like the case was so clear that in another jurisdiction, he would have won. It was all because it was in Tallahassee. It has nothing to do with the evidence. I want to say a special shout out and thank you to Michelle Bell for the super sticker. And Linda, it is great to have you as a member for 3 months. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Like one of the guards was saying to me, he goes, the best you can do is hang. You have to have unanimous. I mean, 12 people have to vote your way. I mean, you think you're going to get all 12 people to vote your way? You're crazy. Not up here. The best you do is hang. If you hang, you do it. The best you do is hang. If you hang, you stay here. You stay until they retry it. And they get another bite of the apple. Like, these people hated me. I mean, they looked at me like, like some guy that's making $5 million a year. I wasn't. I know you weren't.
Well, they're not finished, this family. They're just the start.
Well, I know.
Look, there's nothing, as you know, there's nothing you can do right now. You get through the night, you'll see these people in the morning, you get back to your cell. I'm going on to take your check, I'll ask the money to the account, so it will be okay. And you need commissary money too, right?
Gotcha. Until I know it's safe for me to get stuff, I'm not that. Like wherever I go, until I know that it's safe, I'm not going to be ordering like I have.
So let me stop there because there's a lot to unpack in what we just heard, and a lot of it is hard to hear. So hopefully you're able to see the words I put up on screen. I have slaved over this, trying to figure out, okay, how can I make sure that you hear correctly, and have I heard correctly? Do I have the right words for you? So I hope that I do. So Charlie, as I say, is pointing out that when you get a hung jury, which is a pretty successful thing in a murder trial, if you get that, all that does is buy you usually more time in jail while you wait for another trial and the prosecutors try again. Eventually, after several tries, there's a good chance that, one of the juries is going to break the tie, either convict the person or send them to jail. And the chances are that they're going to get sent to jail. So he's saying, you know, everybody, I had to win 12 votes, which isn't really true, but I had to win 12 votes and I didn't win any at all. All 12 went with the prosecution and believed there was sufficient evidence against me. So Donna's response is she kind of alternates between, you know, cheering Charlie up, like it's all going to be, we're going to work together. We're not giving up. We're going to keep trying. And Charlie saying, you know, and how about I buy you commissary? And he's like, he's a lot savvier about prison. And he's like, well, this might not be the time to do it. Let me hold on before you do that. But what's completely apparent in all their conversation is how very shocked they were at the result, how much they did not believe that a jury would convict them. And they really did that. And I think the fact that they really believed absolutely no one was going to listen to this phone call, that they did not think anyone would care about it or listen to it. But in their minds, they know whose fault it is. And it's the fault, they believe, of an entire city. It is the fault of Tallahassee, not anything to do with anything they've done.
I just literally was really thinking I was getting out.
We all did.
Like I came to believe I was getting out, but like the distributor in Tallahassee wasn't tough. You know what I mean? It's just like the way everybody was reacting to everything. It was like everybody was drinking the Kool-Aid too much. I should have. I would say trust your gut instinct. Like, should have trusted my gut. Instead of listening to people. Yeah. No, and then I have like, you know, people convince me otherwise, and then I'm like, oh, okay. No, cool. Should have gone with my gut instinct. Like, you know, I trust it. I knew when I was sitting eating sushi with Roman that last time that I was with him. Like when we all went to sushi in Weston. Remember, you know what I'm talking about? Wasn't enjoying the moment as much as I was thinking, like this is on video. Really, I kind of weird, you know, like the turtles. It was weird. It was almost like an out of body. I felt like it was out of body experience while I was doing that. Just, you know what I'm saying? Like it just, like I was there, but I just feel like I just felt like this was like I was literally cherishing every moment. More so than I should have been for eating sushi with my kids.
I don't know if that's worth cherishing.
I was mad at myself because I saw the freight train coming.
So Charlie is saying he knew in the back of his mind, he knew he was going to lose this case. He had this feeling. He knew that this was going to be the last time he had dinner with his son when the last time they went to sushi. He knew, but he managed to let everybody talk him into believing he might actually be acquitted. There really does seem to be a division between Charlie and Donna about their opinion of Daniel Rashbaum. And you can see Charlie sort of a little upset with his attorney, and Donna, like, he did a great job. There's nothing he did that was wrong. It was the jury. It was the fault of the jury. I want to say thank you to Brenda, who did a super chat. I've been looking up what she says. Donna's been given a plea deal, time served to give up Wendi. But I'm not able to find that. I think Brenda is more thinking that would be a plea deal that she would like to see happen, but I have not been able to find any reference to it. So I did want to go ahead and say that, but thank you, Brenda, for your super chat very much. All right. So Charlie spends a lot of time in the course of this talking to his parents about, because Harvey's on the phone too, and he talks to them about how they should take care of themselves. Like he doesn't want to see them get sick as a result of this, the stress from seeing him convicted. And on the one hand, it's thoughtful, but he really talks about it from his own point of view, like about how he doesn't have anyone else. So please take care of yourselves. You're all I've got.
I want you guys to take care of yourself because I don't have much else to manage my life with now. Worse if something happens, guys. So, like, take something to relax. Like, take something to relax. So, you know what I mean? Honestly, I cried a little bit myself, but I'm more just like bigger shock.
So Donna, for her part, is kind of alternating, super encouraging, and great despair to the point where she can barely talk, especially toward the end. And Charlie brings her back over and over again to the theme of Tallahassee and of how Tallahassee was the problem. And she doesn't disagree with him. She agrees with him.
Yeah. No. Things can change. I mean, miracles can happen. But it's number one in the case is that we have to get moved out of Tallahassee. I mean, it was an absolute joke when I was sitting there, and you know, it was a spectacle. It was literally a spectacle. Out of 152 people we had come in, 93 were honest enough to say that they already, what they knew about the case, revealed the right opinion. We had 5 people on the jury with law enforcement in their family. Yeah.
They're appalled, law
I had a
enforcement.
guy that was a 20-year sergeant in the Army and then retired in the post office 20 years. Or working in the post office. 20-year sergeant in the Army. Like 20 years black sergeant from the United States Army. Like, you're not looking, like, how is this 60-year-old retired sergeant from the Army look at me? Like an alien. Like an outsider. I mean, I was a total outsider up here. This was not. Nobody could have won this case up here. Let's put it that way. Not even. I mean, you think Dan could be that wrong?
You know,
Like, you got to have 12 people go your way to get out. They didn't have one. They didn't have one.
So he's talking about the idea that of the jurors who came in, most of them already knew about the case, and they were honest about that. It was obviously his opinion that the rest of them also had already formed an opinion about the case, and he could not get a fair trial from them, but they wouldn't admit that. And he also talks about law enforcement, the idea that he doesn't think law enforcement should have been on his trial at all. They shouldn't be allowed to be on his jury. And he had no chance of winning in Tallahassee. That is a constant theme throughout this conversation. Donna agrees with that. It very much has powerfully impacted her approach during this case. The urgent desire to get out of Tallahassee and to have her case tried somewhere else because of her belief that that is the reason that Charlie lost. Not evidence, nothing to do with the facts of the case. It's because of where it was tried. And they talk about the fact that during jury selection, both sides get to get to excuse certain jurors, to strike the jurors, it's called, when they're doing jury selection. You get a certain number of strikes you can use when you're picking the jury. So let's say you have 6, you could decide 6 people won't serve, and you just tell the judge, I picked these 6. In this particular case, they're calling them X's. I'm sure they drew an X mark through them. And so that's where they come up with the term X's, is my theory.
Yeah, I mean, the X's that really need to be used, they're X's. They said, oh, I'm going to Charlie a fair shake. Get him out of here. They used their 12 to get anybody that would have given me a fair shake. That they threw. I used their 10. I used my 10 to get rid of people I needed to get rid of.
Now, I do have news for Charlie, which is, I will say, it always feels like you have not as many strikes as you need. 100% of the time, it feels that way. And it always feels like the other side has way more strikes, and it was so easy for them, and they easily got rid of everyone they needed to, and the only people left were ones highly biased against you. That is a normal feeling that people have when they pick a jury. So I don't really think there's anything unusual or unique about what he's doing. I imagine the prosecutor had some difficulties as well. But Charlie does think just the jury pool itself was so tainted with knowledge about the case that there was no possibility that they were going to actually ever decide that he was not guilty. He does not believe the facts had anything to do with it, nor does Donna. Hey, special shout out to Corey. Thank you very much. I appreciate your super chat. All right, Charlie does talk about the prosecutor some. Now, the overall blame is with the jury pool and Tallahassee itself, but he does talk about the prosecutor, and he clearly believes she fomented the jury to be against him, that she worked them up trying to make sure they would be against him.
I thought I was going to get, honestly, I thought I was going to get a fair shake, and I never thought I was going to get a fair shake. I got led to believe that I was going to get a fair shake, and I started to believe it myself. You know, I just...
No. Dan is writing to me while we're talking, Charlie.
Yeah,
hang in there. We're going to continue to fight. With it. Not giving up on you, just wait.
I know. It's just a big case for Tallahassee.
Oh, I thought, gee, that sounds like I've already heard that before. Let me go ahead and stop it. If I hit the little button, it moves backwards, but that's okay. I've got the thing over here. I should be able to figure out exactly where we were. All right, we were Charlie encouraged. We probably didn't even hear that. Okay, we're going to go to the 11-minute mark. By the way, y'all remind me, I want to tell y'all a personal story at the end. So remind me when we get to question time.
People I needed to get rid of. I know it's the system or whatever, but I still don't understand how they can be taking so many things that have nothing to do with the case, from the whole phone number to email to people's statements who have vendettas, and then present them oh, this person said this person said this person said you're arrogant. He's so arrogant. What makes me arrogant? They make a lot of money.
They're just trying to paint the picture.
Yeah, they throw some adjectives. You know, you think you're untouchable. I never said I was untouchable. Someone described me as that. You come up.
I do want to throw in one thing. I did feel like the statements about their net worth that were introduced at the first trial, the trial of Charlie Adelson, wasn't technically the first trial, but the trial of Charlie Adelson, I did feel like that was a little prejudicial And I didn't feel like they should have introduced the net worth of them. I think there could have been a stipulation that, you know, they had enough money to pay this amount that they had promised to Dan Markel, the $1 million payment, if he would just move down to Tallahassee and, to Miami and commute back to Tallahassee. I did feel like, so what they're complaining about here is, in addition to other things, that the jury was biased against them because of how much they made, that they were, the prosecutor put in people who disliked Charlie, put in statements about Charlie and the fact that he was rich, and just created this environment that allowed the jury to dislike him for no reason related to the crime. And so that's what they're talking about here. They're now going to talk about an issue related to the home phone. This was a conversation that happened where during the course of the trial, one of the points the prosecution made was that Charlie called Donna Adelson, and he called her on her home phone instead of her cell phone. And the prosecution considered that to be evidence that he was trying to keep this confidential or quiet, that he was doing things a little differently because this was something important he needed to talk about, and he thought that would be safer. Charlie is clearly suggesting here that no, it didn't have anything to do with it being safer or anything. It was just coincidental. That's what he's suggesting here in this next clip.
With a chart that shows that I call the home phone number only, 99.8% of the time. I never call the home phone number. What he called his home singer's home line.
The prosecutor knows she threw in lies. She knows exactly what she did.
Yeah.
So they're saying the prosecutor knows she lied. That's what. It's real hard to hear. That's why I put the word.
I'm not. Very simple. I just, you know what? Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. Both it sucks.
Like, he's not even on call, right? It's on the call. Very serious. I really thought I was going to get out.
And have faith, because there's a chance that this is going to change. So just have faith, okay?
Yeah, no, I do. Listen, you never know. It just has, in order for it to change, it definitely has to leave the out of Tallahassee. The jury selection was a sham.
It was a sham, actually. It's a sham.
It was a sham, and
So both of them completely agreed trying to pick a jury in Tallahassee was a sham. They weren't ever going to be allowed to pick a jury that would be fair to Charlie. Obviously, now that Donna is in the exact same position, that's why she's tried so hard not to pick a jury in Tallahassee. And obviously, she'll have the same sort of belief that the jury will treat her unfairly. Now, they both talk about how witnesses lied on the stand, or Charlie does in particular, talks about two witnesses, Jeffrey Lacoste, who is Wendi's former boyfriend, and Ryan Fitzpatrick, who had been one of Charlie's closest friends, but they had had a falling out before the trial ever happened, before Charlie was arrested. And Donna's going to refer to these witnesses here.
But if I would have known that she was going to be able to do what she was doing with,
meaning the prosecutor,
making the case about text messages and emails and Jeff Lacoste statements and Ryan Fitzpatrick statements, and make a whole case out of it. Jesus.
I mean,
I did not think that.
The lying was so obvious. I don't understand why they couldn't see it. It was blatant.
Like she started doing that whole thing about Wendy's book.
Let me stop there before we go in these novels. So Donna, just up front, the lying was so obvious, and she doesn't understand why the jury didn't accept that it was clear in her mind that these witnesses were lying. And now they're going to talk a little bit about Wendi, the daughter of Donna, sister of Charlie, and about a novel she wrote. And that novel was one of the topics when Wendi took the stand. The prosecution asked her about this novel, and they implied that the woman who was the main character in this novel was a lot like Wendi, had a lot of similar characteristics. And one of the similar characteristics, according to the prosecution, was this woman in the novel wanted to get the heck out of a backwater Florida town. And the prosecutor said, and that's basically Tallahassee, isn't it? You wanted to get out of Tallahassee, the backwater place where Dan Markel had forced you to stay, and you were willing to do anything, including murder him. Now, Wendi, of course, denied that. And like I said, she has not been charged in any way with this in connection with the murder of her ex-husband, Dan Markel. Although the prosecutor has made it clear they think that she is a co-conspirator, that she was connected. Will it happen? I don't know. But this book, it comes up in more than one conversation. Charlie is really upset about Wendi's book having been brought up, about the way Wendi talked about and approached Tallahassee in the book, if Tallahassee is in fact the town. That really bothered him a lot.
Are you kidding me? I know. What does that have to do with anything?
Well, paint the picture.
And now I want to switch for just a minute. So the problem for Donna Adelson is that Charlie then goes on to say a lot of negative things about Tallahassee. Now, normally I would say that statements between Donna and Charlie made while he's been convicted, and those are not in furtherance of the conspiracy. He's already been convicted. The conspiracy is long over. But in this case, one of the arguments the prosecution make is that if Wendi and Donna attempt to argue that Wendi really didn't mind Tallahassee at all. She was happy to stay there. It was a fine place, which is what Wendi testified to at Charlie's trial. Then suddenly it's a new ballgame. They can introduce things like this to show that isn't really how they felt about Tallahassee at all. So I think they're going to have a strong argument that some of these come in if they decide to use them. So this is the prosecutor, Georgia Kappelman, talking about why Wendi's book came in at the last trial and whether it will come in at Donna's trial.
Went back and looked at how it came up last time, which was that Wendi Adelson denied wanting to relocate, denied being disappointed about losing her motion in court to relocate. And that is, of course, the state's theory as the main motive behind this crime was that she was wanting to relocate to South Florida. And I thought at the time that testimony opened the door to her having written a clearly autobiographical book about a woman just like herself, married to a man just like Dan Markel, who's utterly miserable and stuck in the place that she's living in. So if the testimony goes that way this time, I can imagine a scenario where I might want to ask about that. I'm fine with approaching, if Your Honor prefers that, to see if we think we're there, where I can inquire about that. There's a high likelihood I might not want to inquire about it at all.
I think it seems really likely, based on the testimony last time of Wendi, based on Donna's likely defense, that this comes in again if that's the argument that the judge is going to buy. The question of her book, I thought was a stretch. I was surprised the judge let that in, but they are making an argument that they have to be able to prove that Wendi really wanted out of Tallahassee. And if she's going to say the opposite, then they have to resort to other means to prove that, one of which is Wendi's book. So Charlie, though, took the whole book Tallahassee thing pretty far, and listen to this next little clip you will hear in a minute.
Well, it's not that. I mean, look, you should go to a book. You think anyone on there has read a book in the last year? But I didn't read Wendi's book, but like how many people in that? I mean, like someone who writes a book. I mean, what she say in the book. I mean, she was putting down Tallahassee in her book. She was foreshadowing a place that they were stuck in. Like, if you took out 90% of what she was saying, was just utter fluff. Like, it was just painting a picture. I mean, you trust me, she wasn't putting on a trial, she was putting on a show. You know, I mean, I thought it was going to be more fact-based than like show-making.
Yeah, only one side had facts, the other side was blatant nonsense and lies.
Okay, so we will pull it out with that, and so as you can see, Donna Adelson mincing absolutely no words in order to talk about what happened. Blatant nonsense and lies at the first trial. But notice what Charlie said. Charlie has now said that the entire unwashed crowd of Tallahassee jurors, they haven't even read a book. Like, how many of them have even read a book in the last year? What do they know? And then he goes on to say, I didn't even read Wendi's book. So just saying, Charlie, are you reading books? But he says, that this whole writing a book thing is going to be foreign to these Tallahassee jurors. That sort of comment is just so unnecessary and not helpful at all for Donna. I don't know. I would think they would not let in a comment like that, but we will see, because you heard what Georgia Kappelman said, that if in fact some of this stuff got brought up, well, then she might in fact have to put some of this in to prove the case that she has to make. So let's go ahead and take a few questions. I'll go ahead and tell you that, so you can go ahead and put your question marks at the beginning. And I do want to tell you a story, because you may be able to hear a buzzsaw in the background. So a tree fell on our house this weekend. And I don't mean just, a little tree, like a small tree, ornamental tree. No, I mean a massive tree fell on our house this weekend. It is absolutely beautiful tree, gorgeous tree. I just hate that this is no longer going to be there, but it fell, and we had this massive rain, and then there was all this wind, and the whole tree came over onto the house. So my daughter, it broke out the window. She was lying in bed doing something or another, reading, I guess, reading. She actually reads books. And so she was lying in bed, and her head was like about 6 feet away from where the tree came through the window and broke it all out. And then my dad was upstairs, and the tree landed like just slightly to the side, so it did not hit exactly where he was. It was really amazing. It was honestly, despite the fact that it was a terrible thing to happen, the damage, I think, is pretty minimal. It's a little hard to tell because you can't even really go in the backyard. It's that big. And you can barely even get there because this tree is taking up the entire backyard. So when they're cutting down pieces of it, and hopefully it'll be gone soon, but there is some damage that we'll have to have repaired. But I just feel so fortunate that everybody was okay. I was in another part of the house, and of course I went running through the house like a crazy person, yelling, "Are you? Oh, is everyone okay? Is everyone okay?" And none of them are answering me. I'm like, oh my gosh. There was this huge sound. I had no idea what had happened, but I heard that huge noise. I thought, I didn't know what it was, but it was something really, really bad. And fortunately, everybody was okay. And wow. Anyway, very, very happy for that. So that was my Sunday. Hope your Sunday was a little more pleasant than that. All right, let's take a look at what thank you, Jackie P, for gifting 5 Lawyer Lead memberships. I very much appreciate that. All right, let's go back a little ways. I hopefully caught it, or will catch it fast enough to get to all the questions. I'm going to go a little bit lower down. Okay, here we go. Bonbon. RPH, does it make any sense to be absolutely shocked that you were convicted when you know that you did it? It would not. I think they are all living in a fantasy world. How can you blame Tallahassee, says Bonbon. And there are 2 ways you could interpret this. You could say they're shocked because of the fact that they believed they were innocent and they believed they had done nothing. And how could a jury possibly convict them when they had done nothing? Or you could believe, as Bonbon does, that they're out of touch, that being guilty, is it any surprise that people saw through the attempts to hide it and realized that there was an actual direct connection to the Adelson family? I mean, you do have one of the hitmen saying, hey, this went up. They told me it was the lady. There was, and that the lady wanted her kids, meaning Wendi wanted her kids. So there was evidence around this. So it wasn't really a surprise. I have to agree with Bonbon, or shouldn't have been a complete shock. Plus, if you kind of looked at the stats, you would realize how likely it was that there would be a conviction, just how hugely likely that would be. All right, looking for question marks at the beginning so I can find them in the middle of the chat. I think I went too far back. Well, Bonbon had an early question. So here we go. RN2 moms. Do you think family not attending trial sends a negative message to the jury? RN2 moms, yes. I think it's nice if the jury can see a family supporting the defendant. I think obviously that can make some difference. I think it's hard for the jury to know who's who in the courtroom. They get ushered out pretty quickly before everybody leaves. So you don't see a lot of interaction between the parties and the people sitting there. So I don't know how often they would have even known about this. And as far as I do think, if from a practical legal point of view, it was important that Donna and Harvey not be at Charlie's trial. So I think they made the right choice in that. But yeah, would it have helped? Yes, it probably would. It's also very hard on families, may I say. Freddie's chat: if Charlie were now to deliver proof about Wendi's guilt or involvement, could he still strike a deal with the prosecution even after being convicted? So Freddie's cat and asking, is there any chance for him to turn around his conviction? So let me point out, there is somebody doing that. Katie Medbanawa is attempting to do that. She refused a very, very easy plea deal. She refused to take that, went to trial. She won let me rephrase that. She did not win, but she got a hung jury the first time and was retried and convicted on the second trial. Remember, Charlie will have that in his mind that happened with Katie Medbanawa. So Katie now is testifying for the state. Katie is trying to strike a deal that would reduce the amount of time that she would spend in prison. It won't be the same good deal she got before. But could Charlie do that? Possibly. Yes, it's possible. It just depends on whether or not the state thinks, do they need him? How valuable would it be? Are they willing to deal with him? What would each side take? And so it's possible it can be done, but there's not a clear, easy roadmap. It just could. It's possible. Liquidman.com asking about, I think it is. I do think particularly the issues around Tallahassee are relevant for two reasons. Number one is potential bias of the jury pool, because they believe the jury pool is biased. And number two is that this has been the reason that there's been such a push by Donna to get out of Tallahassee. That's exactly what I think. Marie wants to know, did they put crime tape around the tree? Certainly they should have. An outrageous assault on our house by the tree. I'll tell you what, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. You should have heard the noise of this thing. And it took off like the little corner of really, it was a miracle. It just turned just this way. It got the house, but not like you might have thought. So Pharaoh, what was the diameter of the fallen tree? I don't know. I have to look that up, or maybe measure it. How would I don't know. It's huge. I'm going with huge. All right. Do you think Donna and Charlie are suffering from memory loss? Bonbon has all kinds of questions tonight, and they don't remember they are actually responsible. I don't think they have any memory loss, Bonbon, but I don't think they think they should be convicted. We'll put it that way. All right. Thank you, Marlon, who has started a damage support fund. Thank you. I'm very appreciative. Thank you. Marlon is one of our mods here, along with Mama Pinks. Very grateful for them. Marlon is also the proud dad of the Netherlands' most famous dog named Jerry. Liquid, let's see. All right, going through, already answered that. Okay, Smooth Manchu, do you think they will charge Wendi after they put Donna away? All I know is that the prosecutor keeps talking about it. The prosecutor hasn't forgotten. The prosecutor continues to leave this right there. And so I think I think the prosecutor wants to very much. So it's a possibility. All right, we'll do maybe one more question. Do you think they're looking into Harvey, and do you think he knew? Xana, I think one of the issues for Harvey is all of the stuff around this murky, questionable, we don't know a lot about it, additional charges maybe against Donna that seem to relate to an attempt to get witnesses to testify a certain way or to say a certain thing. We heard in a recent hearing Donna's side say, yeah, they don't think that it's not a real thing and it's been blown up and there's no charge, but we don't really know a lot about that. That would include Harvey. So I think that's a huge risk for Harvey. There just seems to be a lot less smoke around Harvey than with the other people who have been called co-conspirators. Could it be? Yes, it's possible, but there just seems to be less people talking about Harvey and how Harvey might be connected than say about Wendi, but they seem to have been working their way slowly up the family line. So we will see. Norma is asking about new evidence concerning Donna. Yes, I think there is going to be some new evidence. We're going to be talking about that in an upcoming video. So be sure to hit the subscribe button. And so you can come back for more. Also, we would, if you would hit the like button, that will really help the video. Nick Smith asked, someone mentioned if they were to arrest Wendi after testifying in Donna's trial, there would be a mistrial. I don't know that that's the case. I think that I would think that Wendi is not going to come voluntarily to testify for the state unless there's some kind of deal or agreement around that. That's what I would think her attorney would insist on is, let's have a plan and an agreement on what you're going to do because she lives in Texas. So she has to come to Florida. So that's where I would think the agreement would be struck is on, okay, how are we going to get in and out? Are you going to arrest anybody? It's not that hard for them to arrest Wendi in Texas. I mean, they can't do it straight out of Florida, but they can easily just ask that, she be detained there and have her brought over. So I don't really see why they have to do that. Is it more convenient? Sure, but I still don't think they would be very likely to do that. All right. The Full Hat Society says Charlie would have been convicted anywhere. That is the belief of many people, I think, but clearly not the belief of Donna and Charlie, who believe that it was entirely the fault of Tallahassee. All right. Well, I will see you all Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be covering the Donna Adelson trial probably all week, and I will see you then.